This is the 22nd season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Basscat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We got a big week in the world of professional bass fishing. We have Red Crest that is going on at Table Rock. Lots of stuff going on at Table Rock this last couple of weeks. It should be an absolute barn burner. If you guys want a little bit more insight into what's going on Table Rock tomorrow, Wednesday, Andrew Upshaw on his channel is going to drop the Bass Draft. Myself, Todd Castledine, Andrew Upshaw, Ish Monroe, and then we had special guest James Watson, who has what can only be described as a palatial palace on Table Rock. He's made the right moves in his life to where he can have a hot tub that overlooks the lake that he has caught so many fish on. So looking forward to seeing if Jacob Wheeler can get a Red Crest title under his belt. How much will spawning fish play? Will the weather systems that are rolling through impact anybody or anything? But a lot of stuff going on there at the Bass Pro Shops, Johnny Morris, and then I think 35 anglers vying for the 2026 Red Crest title. Drastic fishery, not that far away though. Muskogee, Oklahoma. We are reaching the midway point of the 2026 Elite Series season. The big storyline there is, can Jason Christie go back to back? We saw what he did on the Top Bigby with a flip bait, with his signature series spinner bait. I mean, it was awesome to watch him throwing that spinner bait and just cracking those fish there. Arkansas River coming up. Heard some good things. Heard some tough things. It'll be interesting to see if there'll be any big bags that come out. It'll be interesting to see if forward facing plays at all on a fishery that you traditionally don't think of that playing at all either. It'll also be interesting to see. This is really, in my opinion, these last two tournaments, the 30-day no limit off limits, no info rule, but to where they could get it before. Will you have guys who you traditionally wouldn't think do well on a river that did their homework, that put the time in, that learned some of these sneaky backwater areas in the Arkansas River? So a lot of fishing to watch. There were a whole bunch of you that watched a little bit of fishing that went down yesterday. We dropped on the show. It was funny to me. I've done this for a long time. I posted a photo on Instagram last week, and it was of me live scoping with Randy Blaukat, and I think like 90% of the people thought that it was AI. And on this show, I've been like veiled but outspoken about like just some of the videos that Randy comes out with, which he does 4 or 5 videos a day, really seem. I just wanted to get in the boat with the guy. I ended up finding a video from 5 years ago, which I showed to him on the water, that said, hey, you can have all these differences off the water. And it's not like I have like differences with Randy Blaukat. I've known him for a long time. I've told the story before on how the first time that he met me, we were in an elevator at the 98 Classic. I wonder if he remembers that. What's up, Randy Blaukat?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, are you AI right now, or is this real? Like, this is how they determine whether it's AI or not these days. You take 3 fingers and you put it in front of your face, and if it doesn't change any of your face, then that's proof that it's not AI recognition. Put 3 fingers. No, not AI. We got real Randy Blaukat that's here. Thanks for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. I know, you drop your kid off at school every day?
Yeah, every morning. He's got to be at school. We usually get there about 7 o'clock or so. Yeah, they got he's in 3rd grade, and they got the 3rd graders going to school at 7 in the morning, and the high schoolers here in Springfield like at 9. So I'm not sure what's going on with that.
Well, early rising is a good life habit to get into. I find myself, the older I get, the earlier I rise. I'm a 5:30, 6 a.m. guy every morning.
I know it. I'm forced into that myself.
But no, I wanted to get you on to talk about our day on the water, but I've told this story before a number of times, and maybe it's why I was open to jumping on the water with you. But in '98, I was 13 years old at the Bassmaster Classic. There are a couple guys that stick out to me. One of them was the Federation Nation Wrangler angler at the time. His name was Mark Hickenbottom. And he was incredibly nice to me. I remember I got to go to the black tie dinner. I asked Roland Martin about the helicopter lure. I gave Jimmy Houston like a little wooden cutout because I had my own woodworking company back then, but we were in the elevator and I had come from the expo and I had a jig. And from reading Bassmaster and from the wins that you had before, I remember that you liked a big, heavy jig and had won some money on it. And I asked you, you had a pack with you, and I asked you, I was in the elevator and my dad was like, go ahead, talk to him. And I said, Mr. Blaukat, I said, I just bought this jig. What would you do to modify it? And this was like the night before the tournament. We're in the elevator at the Classic, and you took time. You pulled a pair of scissors out of your back. You trimmed the jig for me. You trimmed everything on it, and you gave me a customized Randy Blaukat. That's why I asked you when we were on the water if you had any old school jigs. I was going to have you trim one for me again, just like it was. I lost it. I remember the jig. It had a triangle head on it, and it was an orange and red and brown jig. So, that 5 minutes when I was 13 at 41 still kind of sticks out to me.
Dang, 28 years ago, man.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. What do you remember about that? That was like the 1998 Classic that Denny Brower won.
Yeah, I remember losing a 6-pounder and a 4-pounder that cost me winning the Classic. I got third in that Classic. But interesting story. Let me tell you a real interesting story about that. I went down there to pre-practice, for like 3 days, before the cutoff. And I was committed to fishing way up the river. So I spent 2 of my 3 days. I had a jet dry boat, and I drug logs off of the bank and pulled them out into the water, into 2 or 3 foot of water. And I had all these isolated logs. And that was my plan, is to run these isolated logs I pulled off. First day of the tournament, I'm in the last flight. George Cochran's in the first flight. And I didn't know it, but he was running my log pattern. So he was like in the first flight, and he was hitting all the logs on the way up the river. He had 17 pounds. He was leading the tournament. And I found out at the end of the day that he was running the logs I put in. And I said, George, after that first, weigh-in, he was leading. I said, I just want you to know I was up that river all day long fishing the logs that I put in that you were fishing behind me. And I said, I'll be up there again tomorrow. And he was like mad, because that's where I was fishing. And the second day I caught the biggest string in the tournament because I was in the first flight and he was behind me. So we neutralized each other. One of us would have won that Classic if we hadn't been fishing all the same cover.
Really? So he was fishing your logs and thought he had a right to them. And you said, I drugged these logs in the water. I'm going to fish these logs.
Yeah. Well, he was fishing other stuff too,
Yeah.
But he was also, I had a bunch of isolated logs, like they'd be the only piece of cover.
Right.
Because I saw him fishing one of the ones I put in there. And they'd be like every 300 or 400 yards or something. And he he caught the big bag that first day off of it.
Interesting. And so without that, you wouldn't have. I mean, there wouldn't have been the black and blue flipping tube that then became all the rage after Denny won flipping with that.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's one of the uncontrolled variables in bass fishing.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually am pulling up that video. Holy cow. Here it is right now. I'm kind of impressed that I was able to find it this quick. There it is. There's the 1998 Bassmaster Classic.
Yep.
Why does that? Oh, this is old stuff right here. But there's George Cochran up the river.
Yeah.
Catching a fish off of that log, probably right there, that you had drug out into the water.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't believe it, but that's just the luck of the draw. And like I said, we flip-flopped, and I caught the big bag of the day, the second day, hitting them first. So,
what were you throwing on those? Because
I was two different things. I was throwing a little small crankbait, and I was also flipping a silver grub. That's what I lost one of those big ones on, and I was flipping a jig a little bit, but basically small crankbait around the logs and flipping and pitching, backing up around them.
Look at that. As you, Hank, you took the lead there. New leader on the final day.
Dude, I can't tell you what it's like to be leading the Bassmaster Classic with only like 1 or 2 people that's to weigh in. It's like an experience, everybody should have.
Interesting. All right. Well, I greatly appreciate you doing this. We did spend an entire day on the water on Table Rock last week, and that video is out on BTL on the YouTube channel. I mean, there's over 150 comments out there, and I actually have to give a shout out to the BTL listeners and viewers. A very tame, positive, well thought out comment section. I thought that that could become a little bit of the Wild West, just on kind of based on past history of controversial topics, but some well thought out comments on either side of the fence on that.
Yeah, that's unusual too, because man, that people, they tend to say stuff on those comments they wouldn't really say in real life. So that's pretty remarkable that the haters didn't come out of the woodwork like they usually do.
Yeah. Right off the bat, one of the cool things, and I want to get this, if you know me and listen to BTL, I'm a big supporter of St. Jude. In fact, BTL, our team, me and Adam Bartuzek over the last 4 years have raised over $100,000 for St. Jude. A lot of that coming from the BTL listeners. Mm-hmm. And we got into a little bit of a discussion on the water. And I think right now, probably, would you say your biggest hot topic button is when you use the term cheater box with live scoping? Is that the most polarizing two words in 2025 and 2026 in bass fishing when it comes to firing people up?
Yeah, people either love it or hate it. But first of all, there's a misconception. We talked about this in little videos. I'm not calling anybody cheater that uses it. I've never done that. It's like I use that phrase cheater box because of it being unfair chase, in my opinion, with that. So I want to reiterate, a lot of people just hear what they want to hear. So if I call it a cheater box, don't try to twist it into me saying somebody's cheating. But yeah, it is polarizing for sure.
And we went over that in the video that was on the water. So since that on the water, I'm all about unique ways to raise money for St. Jude. And I want to run something past you, Randy. I talked about this with Mark Jeffries on the show yesterday. Also, you need to go back and listen to that. I got some details on the Bassmaster Opens angler who received a level 4 violation and was banned for life for tracking a fellow competitor, or attempting to track a fellow competitor in the upcoming at the time, the upcoming Bassmaster Open on Lake Eufaula, by having an associate hire a guide trip with him and plant a air tag in his boat that was wrapped with foil so he would be unable to identify it, but that angler could then track that other angler during official practice. It's crazy, absolutely nuts. So I kind of did a 10 or 15 minute deal on that. But one of the things when I talked with Jeffries, I came up with this idea and I started spinning my circles. I said, how can we turn this and raise some money for St. Jude? So I want to run this idea past you. And then if it goes well, there's like a couple more elements to this that I think are pretty cool. So the fundraising, really, the year ends the end of April for that Dick Hiley St. Jude. And we're probably going to raise over $1 million for this tournament that's in Wabasha. And then on Table Rock, Paige Schumacher, who owns Pro Guide Batteries, is doing the Hope Classic that is the following week. All angler raise money. I would like to propose something.
Okay.
So from April 15th, 2026 to April 15th, 2027, every time then, and there's technology that, cause I went back and did it, that can scrub your videos and pull out the exact numbers of it. Every time you use the term cheater box, are you willing to donate 50 cents to St. Jude? And then next April we'll get you on and we'll talk about how many times you used it. And then you could donate that amount to St. Jude.
That's going to cost me a fortune, man. I can't turn that down. I'll do that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. You're in on that. So that's 100% yes. All right. So
dude, that could cost me thousands.
I don't know. There's no way. You're not going to say it 2,000 times.
I don't know.
Here's what I got to do though. I have several sponsors that are technologically savvy sponsors. So this is the twist in it. So I've contacted Deep Dive, the Deep Dive app that just has new aerial footage out too. So every 2 or 3 days you can look at the aerial footage of your lake. If you're fishing Table Rock coming up and there's rain coming in, you can see where the inflows are on it. You can see where the muddy water is. I called Deep Dive and I said, this is what I'm going to do. If Randy agrees to it, will you match whatever Randy Blaukat has to donate, and Deep Dive is 100% in. So Deep Dive is matching whatever you're going to donate. Then this is the real kicker. I call it the Bass Tank. So they're the ones who install my live scope, the transducer. There's Scott from the Bass Tank. He's 100% in too. So he's going to match it as well. So whatever you have to donate next year, Deep Dive is going to match it, and the Bass Tank is going to match it. So through this whole thing, we're going to raise a lot of great money for St. Jude. So I greatly appreciate you doing that, and me kind of hitting you with that out of left field, Randy.
That could be some serious money there for sure, man.
That's the whole point of it. Randy just went away there.
Just a second.
All right. He's going to come back, and then we're going to get into our day on the water on Table Rock. I have it pulled up.
What did I do? I accidentally hit something here.
Okay. It's that technology, Randy. You may have to log out and log back in.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. You're back. All right.
Okay, sorry about that.
What I'm curious. Hopefully a lot of people have watched the video. If you haven't, let's kind of run through it. I know you did a little bit of a recap video before this video came out that was on your channel, Intuitive Angling. But when I called you up and said, hey, I'd like to spend a day on the water in Table Rock, talk about some stuff, get you on the live scope, and really kind of get your take on it. What made you say yes to that, Randy?
Well, I didn't, because first of all, I've known you for a long time, and I knew this wasn't going to be some type of a, gotcha type deal, So that right there just lend it to me. I mean, if it had been somebody else, I probably wouldn't have done it, because, I've gotten sort of like blindsided a little times before with that. But I just thought it'd be a good chance, to sort of, talk about it open and honestly. And a lot of people, like on the videos I do, they just sort of hear what they want to hear, and they just sort of form their own opinions. I thought this would be a good chance to, sort of, see it for really what it is. And the fact that it's not the technique, as far as I don't have anything against the technique or the people that use it. It's the technology and what it's doing to the sport. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get my point of view across to an audience like that you have, that is probably a little bit more, live scope friendly than my demographic and my audience. So I didn't see how it would go bad, because I just didn't see it being a confrontational deal between the two of us.
Yeah, and I thought we had a lot of great time. So when you actually got up there, when you started scoping around, I thought it was interesting, some of the stuff that you said wasn't as easy. The biggest thing is people say, oh, you think you just drop the scope and that they're floating everywhere and that you catch her in any part of the lake. Were you surprised? And I know you said you've been on with Fish the Moment with Johnny Schultz one time in the past, but you never actually scoped. You didn't have your foot on the trolling motor. You weren't holding the jig and minnow up front. You weren't trying to hit the fish at 60. Just kind of walk through in your brain what you thought the process was like. Was it easier? Was it tougher? Was it exactly what you thought it would be? Or was it different in any type of way when you're actually making every chiropractor in America happy with the neck down, looking at the screen, trying to find a fish in the back of that cove?
Well, yeah, I've talked to a lot of people and researched, and what the technology did, as far as what it showed me, that really wasn't any surprise, because I've watched it enough to really know what it does. But the thing that stood out to me more than anything else is how precise the trolling motor position had to be, in order to stay on that fish and move it. And it would be the same thing. It's like if you were trying, say, for example, you're coming up to a lay down tree on Logan Martin Lake up the river, where you got a pretty decent current. You're going to have to manipulate that boat based upon the current and wind direction with the trolling motor in order to get your casting position right. It's very similar to that, except that it just requires a constant focus on that. And I can see how after you do it for a long time, it would sort of be, you'd have muscle memory where it becomes sort of second nature, where, your foot adjustments in relationship to the cone angle would be sort of second nature. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that are at the top of their game on that, it's just, they don't even give it a second thought. But, if you first get on it for the first time, to me, that's the biggest learning curve. And that, and the fact that, it's like immediately, one of the things I first noticed is that my world became contained in a very small little box in front of the boat, because I couldn't take my eyes off that screen or I'd lose those little wolf packs. Yeah, it would be different if you're after these massive schools, but when you're chasing one or two fish around the lake and they're moving and the wind's blowing, you can't, it requires so much focus on that box. I can see how when they're filming those guys now, they just don't take their head. You hear the term, they're glued to the screen. That's why, because you can't take your head away from it. And that's the thing that I immediately did not like about it.
Was it tougher for you to follow, to quote, chase the fish? Because I hear you've talked about a lot of the people who are opposed to the forward-facing sonar says, hey, you can just chase a fish all around the lake and cast directly on it, put it directly in front of the fish until you get it to bite. Did you find that to be a little bit tougher than you thought it would, just having based on watching a lot of the top guys in the world do it versus then trying to do it by yourself?
Well, it was only tough because that's the first time I'd ever done it. I mean, it's like, if you're, trying to throw a bowling ball, at a certain, angle and speed for the first time, you're going to struggle with it. But once you get down with it, it's like, it's going to be second nature. From my point of view with it, and just speculating on my part, I mean, if I would do something like that, if I'd focus on it for a couple months, I don't think it would be that difficult. I mean, I think that it would just become sort of instinctual, almost like any other technique that requires some type of precision. It's just sort of like if you're trying to position your boat to skip a wacky rig underneath a boat dock or something. You've got the wind, you got the sunlight angle, you got the current, you got the boat drift, everything with that. But like for me on something like that, I don't even think twice about it. It's just like my body adjusts naturally, and I can see how it'd be the same way, with the live scope.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to pull the clip up of the moment that everybody was waiting for, and then we're going to walk through the first live scope fish. So here we go. I got to get to it. Okay. There it is right there. So that's you, straight fluorocarbon, shaking the minnow. There's the tree. I'm going to pause it right there. If you saw it right there, there was the fish coming out that came out with the tree with the group of fish. You're landing it. You catch it. What a fine specimen. I'll tell you what, the spotted bass were small, but they were thick.
Yeah, they got some bellies on there.
Look at that smile, Randy. Now that is you can't fake that smile. That's what probably most of the guys that I talked to after this said when he caught one, they wanted to know what your reaction was. And you caught it. Look at that. Genuine smile, high five, boom, there it is. So
well, we all love getting bit though. I mean, it doesn't matter how you getting bit, we love it, but that's another story.
Do you think you will ever live scope again, or was this the one time that you did it? You've done it, and you'll move on to other things for the remainder of your career?
The only time I'd ever live scope again is like if you called me up and challenged me to a live scope versus non-traditional type deal where we both had to mix it up or something. But no, I'm not going to go. I won't be buying one, and I won't be. It won't be like a regular occurrence, at all.
Did you receive a lot of backlash from your listeners and viewers, potentially calling you a hypocrite, saying that they can't believe you use the technology? Was there anybody who was shocked that you would even entertain the idea of doing that based on your stance with it?
Oh yeah, I got comments saying, "Randy, you big hypocrite, you're just doing this for clicks, and you and Matt were just trying to do this to get, engagement on the videos." And then, but most of the people was like, "Hey, that was great, man. It's like, I learned a lot. You guys, had a good time. You guys were respectful. It really surprised me that the way it went down." And I had overwhelming, positive comments on it for sure. I mean, I think I had that video I did on, I think I had like 25,000 views on it or something. And like I said, 90% of them or more were very positive. There were some people that were confused about it. It's like, how could you do this? It's like, I'm really disappointed. You let me down. I thought you were the voice against, forward facing sonar, but I tried to explain why I did it and everything. It's not like I went out and bought one and all of a sudden I started using it again.
There were a couple things that you talked about in the show that definitely raised some eyebrows, or I thought needed to be kind of talked about a little bit more, that I wanted to bring up. The first one, and I know you've alluded to this in some of your videos in the past, but I think it kind of surprised me and a lot of listeners that your stance on side imaging. And going back to 2006, you talk about how you and Aaron were some of the first that had it, and you really, I guess, had a philosophical issue with that when that technology first came out. Have you really talked in depth on your videos about that, or just kind of mentioned it? Because I mean, that was 20 years ago that technology was available and has been used with, I would venture to say, zero controversy since then.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit on it. I didn't go into detail, but I'll remember it vividly. It's like, I remember it was the first morning of practice. I was on the Decatur Flats at Lake Wheeler. Nobody had the thing. I was the only one. It was a Bassmaster Top 150, or maybe no, it wasn't. No, it was an FLW tour event. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I was the only one that I knew that even had it. And I saw this log out on the flat there, and it was like I was working down this row of visible stumps, and I saw this log about 50 feet to my right on that side imaging. And I remember I had a shad pattern speed trap, and I fired that shad pattern speed trap over there where that log was, hit the log, caught about a 4-pounder on it. And something just clicked in me when I did that. It's like, man, I just don't like that. It's like it's like, I didn't even know that log was there. It's like that. I didn't feel it, on my own. It's like I didn't see it on my own. It's like I wouldn't have seen it without this. And that's when it really hit me more than anything else. And of course, that was way before forward facing sonar.
Right. The question then is, why didn't you sound the alarm then like you are with forward facing sonar now? I guess people are saying, well, why wait so many years if you thought that this wasn't fair chase, or that there's an issue, with the side? Why wasn't it back then? I guess it would have been a blog post, a Bass fan article, call up Jeffries at the Bass Zone and be like, hey, I really want to get something out about this new side imaging that I don't think is good for the sport.
I don't think at that point I realized what was on the horizon with that. The first time that way of thinking hit me is we were at an FLW tournament at Lake Eufaula, Alabama, in a couple years after that. And at that point, Brian Thrift had mastered that side imaging. And a bunch of guys, I remember, and there was a bunch of guys in that tournament that were practicing at night with side imaging. And what they did, they could see it better, because in the darkness. So they'd get out there. This was before you had to be off the water at dark. They'd get out there with their side imaging. Brian Thrift and a bunch of other guys, they'd side image those flats on Eufaula, and they'd mark all of this offshore structure, these logs, the brush piles, that type of stuff. And they wound up doing good in tournaments on it. And that was the first time that I saw this advanced technology having a true impact. And even when Christie won that using the Panoptics up at St. Clair, I didn't think it was, I just thought it was going to be a one-off, just like occasionally once in a while somebody might utilize it. But I had no idea where we would be over the past 2 or 3 years without it's completely changed the sport. I mean,
there's no denying that. That's not a controversial statement at all.
Yeah. And then, like what you and I talked in the video, Matt, it's like, okay, you put another 10 years of this continual advancement on the technology with no guardrails on it. There's no regulations or no restrictions, no guardrails on the advancement. You start using the AI integration in it and the advancements and the refinement and the picture clarity. And then, like the question I posed to you, it's like, at what point is it too much for anybody? That 2006 was my precipice, and some people may have it, 10 years from now when it's to the point where we don't know where it's going to wind up.
The other thing that struck me and got a lot of feedback, we kind of briefly went over it there. Rick Clunn did an interview with Mercer. He's on Dave Mercer's podcast quite regularly, does a really great job. It's kind of like the second resurgence of Rick Clunn. I really like how open he's become. Like, I'll tell you, when I first started interviewing him and he'd be like in the top 10, like, I mean, I would have my heart would be in my throat and I would be like, Mr. Klund, can I interview? And I knew I had to have my volume all the way up on my little recorder and I had to put it right by his mouth because he wouldn't say much. And he was just always kind of but always been a gentleman, very respectful to me. We actually kind of bond over poker in the past and have a lot of respect. But you did have some things to say about Rick's stance on it. You also talked in the video about how you were surprised that Kevin, and I believe you called some of the other marquee players, had not been vocally opposed to it and were disappointed with them in that. My question to you then is, when you've got some of the biggest names in the sport, Rick Klund, Kevin Van Dam, not openly denouncing it, in some case talking about the benefits of it, using it, what causes you to say, I'm disappointed in them, instead of being open-minded and saying, okay, this has been my stance, but these guys have as much or more experience than me. Maybe I need to dig into it as to why they are not vocally opposed to it as I am, and maybe they have some valid points in there that might soften my stance on it a little bit.
Well, I have a respect for the art form of bass fishing and how, in order to be a master at the top level, to be a master marquee level tournament angler, you have got, number one, you got to be a specialist and you got to be versatile at the same time to be consistent. This is something that takes time. It's like you have to go through a series of different seasons to see how different seasons and how bass move and how their moods and personalities change at different seasons. It's something that takes a lot of time. And then you have to develop and you have to refine those techniques in order to have the diversity of skills to compete all across the country. It's like you have to be able to, I remember when guys first started going to Florida, they struggled because they didn't have experience in Florida. You went from Florida, you went to California, you went to Texas, you went up north for smallmouth. It really was the epitome of what a true professional angler was, with a diversity of skills and techniques. Now, this is what I don't understand about, and I'm not saying that they're saying this. It's speculation on my part. But when you take those marquee anglers out there, like your Van Dams and your Klunds and, all the other guys that we have seen, come and go, Gary Klein and all that, and you've seen their performance get diminished by this technology. If that technology was not in place, those guys would still probably, maintain a lot more consistency than what they have, but they know too much. It's like the reason that the Van Dam class anglers can't compete against these younger anglers. It's not because they don't know how to use that technology or they couldn't use it. They know too much. It's like, guys like Van Dam, they have far too much experience to back up if that forward facing is not working for them, and therefore it's confusing. It's like, think about this. Let's say, for example, you're a top level pro, okay, and you really know that you've got to start integrating forward facing in order to compete in the modern era bass fishing, which I hate that term, modern era. Okay, you go out there, you try it for 2 or 3 hours, you can't get it going, and you look over there and you see that row of docks and you say, man, I know I can go over there and skip that jig around those docks and catch a good bag of fish. And you go do that. And then you may catch some fish, but the 20-year-old, live scoper will not do that. He stays out there. He looks for those wolf packs. He looks to refine the subtleties of that. He stays and he commits to that, and he winds up beating their butt at the end of the day. And that's why guys like Klund and Van Dam, their knowledge of the sport actually undermine their success in correlation with this technology.
The wild thing to me is that I think what the advancement in technology, forward-facing sonar in particular, has shown is that knowledge of the sport was, I don't want to use the term wrong, because it wasn't wrong, but it wasn't as accurate as we thought it was in the Bassmaster articles, in the half-hour TV interviews. My particular thought is like the fall turnover area, where for so many years you'd have the grinder tournaments where, you know, you catch regardless of where you could have a great lake. We saw it a number of years ago when all the switch fisheries got switched, where they went to Chickamauga and they went to different lakes that should have been 20 plus pounds regardless. And it took, you know, Lee Livesey's like, my God, we caught a limit, and he ended up winning on that thing. But you know, you read Bassmasters from 20 years ago, and you read the general thought process was, and it's, hey, these fish aren't biting, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, they're chasing bait in open water. And now there isn't that downtime like that. So in my mind, where I kind of struggled to with it was, you know, you have all this knowledge, you have all this on the water information, but when then it is determined that it is not as accurate as we thought it was based on what we now know is factual on where the fish are, how they move, how you can catch them, where more fish are than we didn't, where it's not, they don't always follow this. There are pelagic fish. There are all this. Why then would you want to stick with, hey, this is what we thought 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So we don't want to change it now to where we're catching more and bigger fish. We just want to stay with the traditional stuff that we always thought it was, even though that's been proven to be way less effective. And we're fishing for 5% of the fish when we could be fishing for 30% of the fish.
That is because you don't want to know it, Matt. When you start knowing,
but I do. I want to know it.
No, but in the bigger picture, if you look at it from the purest point of view, it's like if you don't have that unknown in the sport, then it loses the magic of it. It's sort of like, you know, like our known universe is 14 billion light years across. It's like the logical mind cannot grasp that type of vastness to it. And that's what's fascinating about it. If we knew all the answers to it, it just wouldn't be as cool. And that's one of the things that we talked about in the video is I don't want to know everything. If I happen to find out some stuff like that just by fishing, that's okay. Let me give you a prime example of what this offshore deal used to be. There's an angler here in Springfield. His name's Dick Collier. And Dick,
you mentioned him.
Yeah, Dick dominated Table Rock Lake back in the late 70s and early 80s. He won like everything. And he figured out how to catch those offshore bass in the middle of those creeks, just like you and I were live scoping, with a flutter spoon. So what he would do is he'd get out there with his flasher and he'd find those timber tops. And then he'd throw that flutter spoon out there and jerk it over those timber tops. And he'd catch them doing that. But he wasn't looking for fish. He was looking for structure. But nevertheless, he still utilized the offshore bite there, figured it out with rudimentary technology, and the mystery and the magic were still there. I just think that it diminishes the sport if you know too much about it. And that's, you know, some people they understand or agree with that, and other people that don't. It's just sort of like a viewpoint. I don't want to know everything. It's like I want to be surprised when I pull up to a point. Like I said, I don't want to know what's there. I want to fish to find those fish if they're there. It's like if you don't do that, then the entire act of fishing becomes a commercial venture in catching, and it's not actually fishing. That's sort of my perspective.
Several questions of the instant feedback. What are your thoughts on bed fishing? We did pass several, and I know you've done a little bit, but we did pass several catchable spotted bass locked on beds, and I noticed you were like, oh, that's nice, and just kept going right down the bank. There was no thought of turning around and getting those fish in the boat like that. Is that something that you'll do? Like I think, what are you practicing for a tournament coming up now? Like if you have fish on the bed, like will you go catch a bed fish and put it in the box, or will you legitimately pass up a 3-pounder that's locked on the bed on Table Rock right now out of principle?
No, this is an internal battle I have with myself all the time, because I practice a level of hypocrisy with that as a tournament angler. If I'm fishing for fun, I don't ever try to catch a bedding bass. It's like I want, I want them to spawn undisturbed for conservation reasons. But if I'm in a tournament and I see a 4-pounder sitting there on a bed, I'm going to try to catch it. And I hate it's like it's like I don't like myself for that. But it's like, that's sort of like the necessity of being a competitive angler that does have a level of hypocrisy to it, I admit. And I battle internally with myself all the time about that. But no, if it was up to me, it's just like I did a video yesterday. They're having their Red Crest down there this week at Table Rock. why in the heck are they having a big tournament right on top of the full-blown spawn? It's like, why couldn't they had it last month or next month? And I just think as the tournament organizations, the tournament directors need to try to stay away from those prime spawning periods simply for conservation reasons, if nothing else. I mean, I don't see who could not agree with that. It's like, why not let those bass spawn undisturbed? Because it benefits everybody. Everybody.
Couple more questions and I'll let you go. I know you're pulled over at a parking lot, so I greatly appreciate the time here. There's a fairly accurate kind of assumption that I feel like you're kind of a pessimistic person, Randy. Like, there's just people that are generally glass half full, glass half empty. And I think that your posts would back up my stance that the majority, there's a pessimistic, not overly optimistic tone to a lot of the videos. Is that intentional to get more views? Is that just how you are as a person? I think we all know people who are just like, oh, this isn't gonna go well, and other people who, when it's clearly not gonna go well, go, hey, we might pull out of this thing. Like, we could do this, and this could happen. Is that just kind of a personality trait? Is that 30 years of tournament fishing just beating you down into looking at what could go wrong, because so many times stuff does go wrong? But just kind of get inside your brain. If you were to describe your own personality outside of the short snippets that we get to see on your YouTube channel and on your videos, how would you describe your personality as a person outside of the industry?
Well, here's the thing about it. When I'm talking about fishing type of stuff, I don't think a lot of people maybe can comprehend what I'm trying to do in the bigger picture. My entire focus with the videos I do is I try to affect change for the positive, but you can't affect change for the positive if you deny the reality of the situation. So the way that I go about it is I'm trying to bring light into situations what I see as negative to the future of bass fishing, the sustainability, the tradition, and the heritage of the sport. It may come across that I'm being negative, but if you don't bring awareness to that, then you can't ever change anything. And I'm trying to affect change for the positive in my own viewpoint. Everybody has their viewpoint of what they want the fisheries to be like and what they're going to, be after we're gone here. And that's what I'm trying to do. Sometimes it probably comes across like I'm negative about it, but that's not my intention. I mean, I love the sport and I want to see it thrive after our generation is done and gone. And I just don't think that some things that challenge the sustainability of our fishery, like environmental issues, different conservation issues, different type of use issues. We have a lot of challenges into our fisheries on a bunch of different levels. And you can't be rainbows and unicorns all the time. You have to, if somebody doesn't bring up these problems, it's never going to get brought up. That's sort of where I feel my place is in, the public forum that I have, is I'm trying to bring awareness, and some people see that as negativity, but it's not, in my opinion.
Do you think there's a difference between perceived problems and proven problems? You talk about the number of fisheries, how forward-facing sonar hurts it, but on your channel, I don't see you saying, hey, this research that just came out from this that focuses on bass is showing this is what happens to forward-facing sonar bass. It seems like there's a lot of, it's bad for it, just believe me on it. Whereas I would be more like, okay, there might be an issue there that we need to look at, but I can look at 3 studies that recently came out that say, hey, this is not impacting the overall health of the bass population in the lake 8 hours into forward facing. I know there's a lot more states that are progressive at it, that are really trying to figure it out. You've got the spoonbill issue, the crappie, all sorts of different fish, walleye up north. You look at ice fishing, there's a lot of state agencies that are trying to get involved in this. But I think for me, I would be more likely to be like, oh, okay, maybe we need to look at this if you could provide facts to back up some of the statements. What drives me nuts are the statements without the facts to back them up. Like, this is killing our fisheries. If I could say, how do you know? Just because you're catching less fish, or just because of that? But if you could say, this state agency did this, that showed this, and this is why, like connect the dots. I guess what frustrates me when I go on an anti-Blaukat rant on BTL is not all the dots are connected, Randy. Walk me through that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't have a lot of confidence in the state fisheries managers, with the exception of the state of Texas. I think the state of Texas does an exemplary job.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the way that I have been sampled. They come up to you at the boat ramp, conservation officers. How many fish did you catch today? How many bass? How long were they? That is not, somebody can lie to those guys. That is not any type of reputable data that they can use to determine the quality of fisheries. Here's my point. If you look at this from a rational, logical point of view, okay, number one, you've got more fishermen on the lake than there's ever been. That is undisputable. The ramps are full all the time. Number two, the skill level of those anglers are off the chart compared to they were 20 years ago. This increased level of the number of anglers, how skilled they are, they got all the baits, they've got all the information at their fingertips through social media and YouTube videos. Their overall ability to catch bass is as good now for an average weekend angler as the pros were 30 years ago. So you got this increased fishing pressure, increased skill level. You still got a ton of dudes keeping and eating them. I think there's more people keeping and eating bass from my own observation than ever before. And then you have so many tournaments, and anytime that you have tournaments, you do have an element of delayed mortality. So you've got all of these issues that are against the sustainability of the fishery that are caused by forward-facing sonar. So I don't see how anybody can say that, given that the fisheries are not going to be impacted. We do not, these fisheries, even the big lakes, they don't have this infinite number of bass to them. They don't. And we have gotten so good at catching the remaining populations of bass that are in that lake through advanced technology, rod and reel technology, lure technology, electronic technology, information, that it creates this illusion, in my opinion, that the fishing is better than what it is. I always go back to the fact that, okay, let me give you the same equipment that we had in 1980, and you go down to Table Rock Lake, or you go down to, Logan Martin Lake with the same technology and the same lure categories we have, and then you fish. That gives you an accurate assessment of the quality of the fishery. But I just think that we have this illusion that the fishing is better than what it is now because of that technology. I just think that I don't see how anybody cannot see that there is a threat to the sustainability of that fishery, given all that.
That's fair. Last question. And this one got me thinking after we got off the water. And I said, damn, I wish I had kind of pushed you a little bit more on this. Mm-hmm. You laid out in your perfect world what technology would be allowed on a bass boat in 2026 if you were the czar of tournament bass fishing. Mm-hmm. Remember what you said?
Yeah. Well, yeah, if it was up to me, there would be a baseline for competitive fishing, and that would be one electronic unit on the console, and I would go for like 2-dimensional sonar and GPS, one up front. That's it. 2-dimensional sonar, for your electronics, mm-hmm. and GPS for navigation. In a perfect world, it would just be 2-dimensional sonar or a flasher and a compass as that baseline there. And then just go out and fish. Go out and showcase the art form of the anglers that are supposed to be the best anglers on this planet, using their instincts and their intuition and their skills and their every part of their being to figure out the bass, the seasonal patterns and movement, and the mood and personality of those bass based upon weather patterns and conditions. Showcase that art form and stop showcasing the art form of reading electronic technology and then saying these anglers are the best in the world. And it's just like what they did with the Masters golf tournament. They rolled back that ball technology because they wanted to make the Augusta course more competitive. So every sport acknowledges this, that technology undermines, the entire foundation of the sport at some point. And like I said, we don't have any, and I don't want this to sound insulting. I just don't think we have adults in the room right now for people that are in positions of power to make these decisions, because there are no restrictions, there's no guardrails, there's no oversight. Even with the electronic companies, it's the dang Wild
There is
West
oversight, though. That's wrong. There is oversight. They have the competition committees. And that was the other thing. You mentioned that you felt like the technology committee with Bass was filled with technology-friendly anglers. Do you know who those anglers are on the committee? Like, can you name any of the anglers that are on the committee? Because I would venture to say that the opposite based on the anglers that I know who are on the committee.
Okay, who's the ones currently on the committee now?
Right now, currently, I don't know. But at the time, I believe Mark Menendez was on it. John Cruz was on it. Ben Milliken, I believe, was one that was on it. But there was a concerted effort by Bass to include a mixture of I guess, progressive newer anglers mixed with veteran anglers who had been doing it for a long time. And that was why the recommendation was for restrictions. And I know I talked to veteran anglers that were on that committee and anonymously who were upset that they didn't feel like their voice was heard enough as far as restrictions for the upcoming seasons. And then I talked to other anglers on that committee who were upset because they felt like the veteran anglers had more of a say on that committee than the anglers who were pro technology. Like, I know that was a heated discussion that Bass took a lot of time in trying to put together a mixture of anglers and not anglers that all had one point of view.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the restrictions put on the tournament side of it. I'm talking about the restrictions from the development of the technology from the companies and from like the conservation department managers with that. It's like right now, it's just like the whole AI, 7 companies that are, creating all this AI. There's no guardrails or restrictions or regulations on this AI development. It's just, and I'm referring it more to the electronic companies. They don't have restrictions. They don't have any guidelines. The conservation departments and the fisheries managers have not put their foot down and say, hey, look, this is not going to be allowed on our fisheries. The tournament realm of it, as far as the rules, is a completely side issue.
All right, I'm trying to find this. You mentioned the golf, and I found this. Did I get it? Nope. I've got to do it because it's a screenshot of the. Okay, here we go. 1 second. I'm going to read this to you. This is a Bryson DeChambeau was talking about this because the USGA right now is working on potentially altering the flight of the golf ball because they feel as though, I don't even have to read it. I'll tell you what the theory is and I'll get your thought, because they feel as though certain competitors are out driving the golf course, right? Yeah. And the general consensus is that it's because of the technology with the drivers and things like that are allowing these anglers to drive it 310, 20, 30. And you can see, however, Bryson DeChambeau came out and you can find the quote on it where he's saying, hey, this has nothing to do with the advancement in technology and clubs. And it has more to do with, and this kind of plays into what you said, with the advancement in golfer training and technology as far as gaining more club head speed, generating more power, treating it as a sport, learning the muscles and the things to gain more club head speed. And they showed the stats to where the drivers aren't why the ball is going further for these players. And they compared everything that it's not. It is the training and the time and the effort that golfers in this generation are putting into it, as opposed to the John Daly's who are drinking 8 Diet Cokes and smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And he's saying, hey, why are you punishing the guys who are working harder to get more club head speed, to generate more power and distance, not because of this technology, but because of our training? I could look at that at fishing and say, hey, you're looking at a lot of this, but a lot of it is the training of these angles. We talked about how Trey McKinney basically had a coach from he was 13 years old. We had a whole segment when we talked about the on the water, how much time on the water a guy who's 18 to 21 can have versus a weekend angler. And I think you said that when you fished earlier, it was just a lot different than it is now. Can you not equate maybe some of this boom and success and the overall weights and the more fish being caught to guys taking this and treating it seriously as a sport more so than they ever have in the past?
Well, there's two different sides to that. There is that particular side as far as the training. It's like if you look at like professional golfers and professional bowlers in 2026 versus 1980, they are more muscled up. It's like, look how skinny the arms of the pro golfers were in 1980 or the bowlers, and look at them now. I mean, that you can tell they've been in the gym. So there is that element. But then again, there's no way that a persimmon head driver is going to be equal to some, titanium head driver that's twice as big. And there's no way a rubber bowling ball thrown down a wooden lane is going to be the same as like these synthetic lanes with different oil patterns and weight blocks and urethane finishes on the ball. It's like that technology has altered the sports in all of them. And I just think that for me, it's like, I just think there's got to be a baseline in any sport that you stay by. And then if you don't, it just fundamentally changes the game to the point where it's not even recognizable. And I think maybe there can be a balance with it, but like I said, I don't understand. Here's one thing about it, Matt. Let's say in my perfect world that tomorrow Bassmaster said, okay, guys, we thought about this. It's not worth it. We've got this baseline. You guys are the best anglers in the world, and we want you to showcase your true ability to find bass. You're going to be relegated to one 10-inch unit of a 2D sonar on your console and a 10-inch unit of 2D sonar up front, and just go fishing. What is bad about that? Like, what is the downside to that?
As long as it's fair and equal across the entire field, whether it's cane poles, whether it's 19 transducers that can see everything and tell you exactly where. I just want fair and equal. If fair and equal. This is the last question. This is the biggest thing that I wish I'd push more on, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
You have set this baseline, GPS, 2D sonar. You talk about the magic and the mystery. You talk about the instinct. You talk about fishing to find the fish. But I can't, where you lose me, Randy, is where you're okay with the 2D sonar. Would it not be even more magical and even more mystery if you didn't have the 2D sonar? I don't see how you have no issue dropping on a fish on 2D sonar with a spoon on top of it on table rock that you wouldn't know was there without the 2D sonar, and don't want to do it with the live scope. I can't, we talk about connecting the dots. I can't connect the dots. Is that just your opinion on where you would like it because you are not anti all technology? Is that like, where does the 2D sonar come into play? Why not? I know there's been memes of you like, hey, Randy Blaukat showing up to the ramp with a horse and buggy, but where do you draw that line? Like, how do you decide in your rationale, 2D sonar is okay, side imaging isn't okay? You're still gaining an electronic information with 2D sonar. You wouldn't know those trees were out there without the 2D sonar. You wouldn't know that shell bed was there. You wouldn't know that drop was there. You're losing so much mystery, so much magic with the 2D sonar. Why not just scale it back, take all electronics off, and you could maybe justify GPS by saying it's a safety issue. But why do you want 2D sonar but nothing more? Like, I've thought about this so much.
Okay, I've got a perfect answer for that. The only reason I said that is to make it, for the guys that are using technology, that they'll still have something. In my perfect world with that, I agree with you completely. There shouldn't even be any electronics with it. Just have a dang trolling motor and then have something, it'll show you how deep the water is, a compass out there. I'd even be okay with me going backwards. I'm just trying to have some type of a happy medium where people can actually, find structure on the bottom and have something, the cones right underneath the boat. I mean, if we want to get to the purest level, yeah, you don't even need any. It's like, I look back at my own entire career, and I bet 75% of the money I've ever won in bass tournaments, I wouldn't even have needed any type of electronics. It's target fishing.
Stick your rod in the water.
Yeah, so from that standpoint, I'd be fine with no electronics whatsoever. I'm just trying to satisfy everybody by setting that baseline that people would say, okay, I can go fishing with two-dimensional sonar. I can go and find some fish with that. And I can also
Okay. That
see all
answers the
sorts.
question.
Yeah, so I'd even go back further with that. But no, that's not my personal preference with it. I grew up with the flasher, and the only
Yeah.
time, really to me, the only thing a flasher did was tell me how deep the water is. I didn't use it to find structure. I didn't use it to find fish. I've never won a penny using a flasher to find fish or structure. It's just how deep that dang water is. So, but that is a good point. Yeah.
Okay. My goal here, someone said that I was gaslighting you. My goal here was not to gaslight you. I didn't think I was. I'm just trying to rationalize it in my mind, and I thought that was a very good answer. Now I understand it.
Well, I think here's the whole thing about it. It's like we all have different baselines. It's like I even think that the most hardcore scoper that there is today, I would have to think, or at least I would hope that there would be something come up to a point where they're not even okay with it. It's like, this is not good. And I think everybody has that different baseline what it is. I happen to represent one extreme of it.
Dude, I appreciate it. I can't thank you enough for getting the day. I really did have a good time. There were some chuckles on the day. I would like to point out for those who listen to Randy's video, I was tongue in cheek more so saying when we were fishing that was a badass secondary point, that when we turned the scope off and you were throwing the 16th ounce shaky head into the abyss and we were dragging it back, I was more so tongue in cheek saying, how do you know what's down there? I don't know what's down there. I have fished without live scope for 20 years, 25, 30. I'm 41. I fished without it for 35 years out of my life. I understand that. It was more so just to prove a point.
And you did catch one there. You caught one there, remember?
I did. And so did you. So I appreciate it. I enjoyed the time on the water. There's differences of opinions is what makes the world go round. And when everybody starts believing the exact same thing and agreeing with everything that everybody says, I think that's when we're really in trouble. And I love the fact that we do live in a country where we can freely express our opinions on just about anything without fear of repercussions that could damage our lives. So I think this was a conversation, especially with the day and age where it is, with Dylan Nutt winning the Classic, with where we are with the 3 different leagues, with the different scenarios, that my goal going into it, Randy, was to have an open and honest discussion, not to agree with you on everything, not to try to make you feel comfortable, but also not to ruffle your feathers and intentionally just take jabs at each other without any positive outcome. And I'm confident in saying that I think we achieved that, even though I disagree with you still on a lot of things.
No, I definitely respect your point of view on that. I thought it was so great that somebody like yourself, that is obviously very forward-facing, sonar friendly, that was open-minded enough to hear my point of view with it. So I thought it was really good with that. I thought it was very productive, very constructive. And I've always said, it's like on my videos, I'll talk to anybody about anything, but just keep it respectful and civil. It's like, you can have your disagreements and you can still respect and talk about the topic. But when somebody starts attacking the messenger and ignoring the message, that's when I just don't have any patience for it.
Can you say it one time on my show? Just say the 2 words.
What's that?
Say the 2 words. Let's just raise 50 cents right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Here's the thing about it is resist the cheater box, everybody.
50 cents for St. Jude. That's actually $1.50 for St. Jude. Thanks to Deep Dive.
You can do better. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll feel better about the world. It'll change your point of view and make everything much better for y'all.
There you go. I appreciate it, Randy. Thanks for the time. Thanks for being a good sport about it. And you got tournament this weekend?
No, I do not. Not till the 1st of May.
All right. Well, catch them up.
Okay, man. We'll talk to you later, Matt.
All right. See ya. There you go. One and only Randy Blaukat. We'll let that interview speak for itself. Like I said, I do greatly appreciate him coming on. We'll take a break, wrap things up here on a very interesting week of BTL. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Before there were hashtags, there were handshakes and shared stories. They gave us confidence to make our first cast and chase our dreams. They taught us to fish, and in the process, taught us about life. They taught us that success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about lifting others up. The future isn't just about selling tackle. It's about 3 simple words. Let's go fishing. Here's to the original influencers.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
At Beatdown Outdoors, we know you depend on your gear to hold up in any condition. We built for that. We test for that. In fact, we pride ourselves in that. Because we know when the time comes to test your gear, you aren't going to take it easy, so we won't. We build premium, made-in-the-USA products that you can rely on in the moments when your equipment should be the last thing on your mind.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring.
That's a giant, dude.
Summer.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Look at that thing.
Winter.
It's so cold.
And fall.
Got a big one. That's awesome. Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option.
AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. Randy Blaukat kind of wrapping up a little 2-part series. Link for that show where we got Randy on the water. It's about an hour and a half. If you haven't watched that, watch that. Talked a lot, kind of more in-depth today about some of the things that we talked about on the water there. That was a long day, man. I'd gotten back from, we did that last week, and I'd gotten back from California with my wife at like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and then had to get the boat dialed in, ready to go. Ran out to the local pond, fished till like 7 or 8, then got up at 3 a.m, drove to Table Rock, fished with Randy, got back at midnight, and then kind of edited all of that footage. A couple housekeeping items. The Fishing Chaos BTL for St. Jude tournament ends tomorrow. It's an inches battle in the 3 divisions. I know there's some guys that are watching here that are going to go out and try to get into the top 3 in their division to win prizes from BTL sponsors. That's been really good. We're over $4,300 raised for St. Jude just for guys who went out and fished that Fishing Chaos. There's also some good stuff going on at Fishing Chaos, a road to the Open. Strike King is doing a Fishing Chaos online tournament where you can compete in your region, and then you if you finish in the top of that, you go to an in-person tournament. The winner of that gets entry fees paid for the 2027 Bassmaster Opens. So if you weren't able to get in the Fishing Chaos BTL for St. Jude tournament, you can jump in that one. Even if you want to jump in this one in the last day, if you're going fishing today or tomorrow, it ends the 15th. You can still jump in that over at fishingchaos.com. And then also, if you are in kind of that Midwest area, the St. Jude Hope Classic, presented by Pro Guide, raising money for St. Jude there. Basscat jumped in, donated a boat, so you don't have to win the tournament to win the boat, which for guys like me who really win. I have won a boat. It was just 10 years ago. If you raise however much money you raise for that tournament, minimum $500 gives you tickets into that drawing for that fully rigged Basscat. So if you are looking to get in a team tournament on Table Rock, I believe it's May 9th. You can look up the Pro Guide Hope Classic. I'm going to be getting with Peyton. I think he went to the Masters. He's probably back from that by now. And then Matt Looney from Basscat on to talk about more details, or you can DM me. I can get you in contact with the right ones. I'm fishing it with Mark Jeffries. Mark Jeffries is going to be back in it. I'm going to get him on the boat. We may have to strap him in to the butt seat because I know you don't have those scope legs when you're out there panning for it. I don't want to end up with a 6'4" redhead taking a Greg Louganis over the side of the boat. So we'll have to worry. We'll have to worry about that, but that'll be a good time. Frank on Thursday, BTL tomorrow. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the comments. And then also the Andrew Upshaw on his channel. Really good stuff with Scott Suggs that just dropped for the Bassmaster Elite Series on the Arkansas River that kicks off. Little fantasy, little fun there. And then tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the 15th, drops for Red Crest, which is going to be a big tournament here. Hey, if you've enjoyed the content on BTL this year, I'm trying out some different stuff with the on the water interviews with some of the live stuff like we did from Austin Cranford from the water, trying to catch a big one. Some of the marathon shows that we've done, some of the off the water stuff, the on the water stuff. Subscribe, like, comment, share, thumbs up. All that stuff helps and allows me to do more. I've got kind of this plan in my head of kind of how I want this thing to evolve this year with BTL. And so far it's off to a great start. A lot of that has to do with you guys, the viewers and listeners of it. So I greatly appreciate it. All right. I think that is all we have for today. We'll talk to everyone tomorrow. See ya.